Congress is racing to pass the most radical immigration bill in U.S. history, and the details are cause for concern for asylum seekers. If this bill becomes law, you could face a $1,000 fee just to apply for protection. That's on top of thousands more in additional fees throughout the process. The window to file for asylum without paying these unprecedented fees is closing fast. In this video, I'll explain exactly what's in this bill, how it could affect asylum seekers both new and old, and, most importantly, what you need to do right now to protect yourself before it's too late. I'll tell you everything you need to know about this development, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending or are considering applying. I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview for multiple years. Let me know how long you've been waiting. The One Big Beautiful Bill is a massive piece of legislation that allocates hundreds of billions of dollars to the government for various priorities. But buried within its 1,000 pages are provisions that would fundamentally transform immigration enforcement and create devastating new barriers for asylum seekers. The bill passed the House by just one vote and likewise barely squeaked through the Senate, with Vice President J.D. Vance serving as the tie-breaking vote to push it over the finish line. But it's not law yet. Because the Senate changed some things, the legislation now has to go back for another vote in the House of Representatives. President Trump wants this all completed by July 4th. If this becomes law, the United States would join Iran as one of the only countries on Earth charging fees for asylum applications. Let me be crystal clear. If you're thinking about applying for asylum, you need to act now. Not next month, not after summer vacation, now. Here's what this bill would do. First, it imposes a $1,000 fee just to file your asylum application. Currently, asylum applications are free, as they should be for people fleeing persecution. But that's just the beginning. You'd also pay $100 every year while your case is pending. Need work authorization? That'll be $550 every 6 months. Want to appeal a denial? The fee jumps from $110 to a whopping $900. Truly incredible. Add it all up, and you could be looking at over several $1,000s in government fees alone. And of course, that doesn't include attorney fees or any other costs for things like translations and any expert witnesses you may use in your case. For someone fleeing persecution, often arriving with nothing, this financial challenge could be insurmountable. Now here's what makes this especially urgent. The bill contains no grandfather clause. That means if you haven't filed your asylum application when this becomes law, you're stuck paying these fees. There's no transition period. Once the bill is passed, if these provisions remain in the final version that gets signed into law, then all of this is effective immediately. No exceptions. Look, I spent 11 years working for the government's two main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, and adjudicated thousands of immigration applications during my time with the government. I can tell you that asylum seekers already face enormous challenges. Adding potentially thousands of dollars in fees turns the asylum system from a refuge for the persecuted into a privilege for the wealthy. And that's simply not how it should be. Let's talk about your options right now. If you haven't filed for asylum yet, you need to talk with an asylum lawyer immediately, as you might need to make a decision right away. The difference between filing today under current law versus filing after this bill passes could mean significant additional costs over the life of your case. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but Brian, what if I don't have a lot of evidence right now? Should I wait until I have everything perfect? Absolutely not. You can supplement your case later. The critical thing is to get your application filed while it's still free. Once you've filed, you're in the system under current rules. Let me be clear about something though. Your asylum application should ideally be prepared with the help of an experienced asylum attorney, not a document preparer, not a notario. Rather, a real immigration lawyer who knows asylum law. This is too important to your future for anything less. Okay, what else is in this bill? It attempts to address the backlogs in immigration court by allocating some funding for immigration courts, but nowhere near enough to address the 3.6 million case backlog. Speaking of long waits in asylum cases, if you've been waiting 5 years or more for your affirmative asylum interview with a USCIS asylum office, you might have grounds for what's called a mandamus lawsuit. This is a powerful legal tool where you sue the government to force them to schedule your interview. We've had great success with these cases, getting interviews scheduled within months instead of having a case languish for potentially many more years. Our clients love it because it works. Okay, back to the bill. It also eliminates fee waivers for certain immigration case types. Currently, if you can't afford to pay filing fees, you can request a waiver, which, if granted, means you don't have to pay. Under this bill, that option disappears. The language is explicit. It says fees shall not be waived or reduced, period. I can't stress enough how unprecedented this is. Throughout my career, first as an asylum officer and now as an asylum lawyer, I've never seen anything like this. The United States has always recognized that people fleeing persecution often arrive with limited resources. That's why asylum applications have always been free. This bill turns that principle on its head. It says if you can't pay, you can't apply. That's not just harsh policy. Many legal experts believe it violates our obligations under international law. And look, the revenue from these fees doesn't even go toward improving the asylum system. It's split between general immigration enforcement, i.e., deportations, and the Treasury. Essentially, persecution victims would be funding their own detention system. This bill is moving fast. Once the Senate version gets approved by the House, it goes straight to the president's desk. Immigration advocacy groups are preparing legal challenges, but those take time. Cases could spend years in court. You can't wait for the courts to save you. You need to act based on current political reality. The bottom line is this: if you have a valid asylum claim and you've been considering filing but have been putting it off, the time to get serious about this is now. This isn't about politics, it's about protecting your right to seek asylum while you still can afford to do so. Once these fees take effect, that door closes for many people. And if you've been waiting for years for an asylum interview with USCIS, the time to explore legal action to move your stalled case forward is now. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. Remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us now to schedule an Asylum Strategy Session so we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.